Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us for Politically Incorrect Knitters, your knitting news source. I'm joined as always by Pinkava, and I think today it's a little less knitting and a whole lot more about what's going on in the country. What do you think, Anne?
I think a lot more, especially since, as those who follow us closely know, we had two guests these past 2 weeks. So there is so much news this week alone, but we're also 2 weeks backlogged.
Yeah. So before we do that, though, I wanted to give you guys who've been following along an update on sock sanity. I dropped out of round 3. I saw the pattern. I noticed it was beautiful. It was completely full of cables, and you had like 10 days to do it. And I said, I would really like to try, but that's just like the past 2 rounds. I was like knitting on the last day, like all stressed out. And so I took it away from myself. I said, socks are difficult for me. They take me a long time. I'm not even gonna, I bowed out graciously. I hope it was, or, gracefully or whatever you want to call it. Because And since then, I've barely knit anything. I don't know. It's just been a couple of weeks where I've had a lot of work. I've been cleaning a lot of houses, and we've been like really on with school. And so therefore knitting kind of went, but it'll come back. It always does. So
that's right.
And since we haven't seen what Anne's been working on in 2 weeks because of guests, I'm excited.
Yeah, I've been working on it a lot, actually, which is kind of funny. There's like lots of a sweater here. So I said before that I had this idea for, I did the undesirable number 1 pattern, and I had an idea for a sweater. So there's most of a sweater here. Like now it's like a short sleeve crop top because it's raglan. And ta-da! Oops,
Wow.
Hang on. Let's get that all in order. So yeah. Ooh, hang on. Donald, get your face straight. There we go. So like that. And I mean, it's all curled up and weird right now. But ta-da! It's a sweater. And also shout out to Cascade 2020 because I got a lot of it for our patriotic quilt, and I wanted to do a sweater and not buy any yarn. And this is actually surprisingly soft. So it's like light and fluffy and wonderful. So A+.
And what Anne meant to say is Cascade 220, not 2020.
No, that's too much of that on the brain.
Yeah, 2020 was good and it's gone. So let's move on.
Yes, sorry.
Maybe it wasn't that good, but
right.
It's done.
220. That's the one I meant.
I love it. And I won't lie, I have a lot of that Cascade lying around also because of the quilt that we haven't heard back from the museum. And so Anne and I decided to kind of like hold off on killing ourselves to make that until we knew whether or not they wanted us to.
Right.
It, life has been happening. And if that's a project we need to work on, we totally will. But until then, so I've been using my yarn for other stuff too, which means I'll have to buy more if we do it.
Right. Oh, I have.
That's okay.
Yeah, I was going to do like a full Betsy Ross flag. So I have like part of that charted out and I have it cast on, but I need to pull it out. And yeah, it's a mess. But it's, like you said, it's one of those things of, I don't even know if anyone wants this. So not that it would be a bad thing to do it anyways, but I'm not sure I really want to sit down and make the effort.
Well, it's one of those things where I think that if the museum doesn't want us to do it, we may continue on, but it's not going to be on any sort of schedule.
Right.
It might be like when the fancy strike says we'll do a square, that kind of thing. But who knows? Who knows? Maybe when I publish my book, and I will do one of the quilts.
You did mention that you thought of publishing a book, so that is exciting.
No, it's just a random thought I had. Growing up, my mom had this cookbook. It was called Nella Cucina, and the chef is Marianne Esposito. And if you watched PBS in the 90s, you probably saw her show. But I was talking to my mom about it, and I really always liked the cookbook because it wasn't just recipes. It was like a recipe, and then on the other page, she told a story about her childhood and about like cooking it with her grandma. And I said, you know, if I publish my patterns, I should do it like that. Like, oh, I decided to make this pattern because blah, blah, blah was happening and this and that. And so it rounds out the whole thing more. And so if I do it, which some people said, and some people were like, yes, go do it. That's what it would be. But, you know, that's just a random thought I had. I have no idea why I was thinking about the cookbook. It's, you know, how things kind of come and go and whatever. So we'll see.
You know, knitting patterns, recipes, they go together. So
they do. And my stepdad made his own little book, and he's been self-publishing it. And so I think that's what got me on the thought of, you know, I can do that. Why not, right? Like, who cares if nobody will publish me because of who I am? I can do it myself.
Exactly. I'm my own woman.
Exactly. So, but these are just ramblings of me. Doesn't mean anything necessarily. But so yeah, is that that's all you've been knitting, right? I mean,
pretty much. I mean, it's and you know, it's like, oh, this, you know, oh, there's so much sweater here, but really, it's just been plain knitting, back and forth, knit, purl, a little bit of intarsia portion in the middle, but that's all it's been.
You kill me with that intarsia. You make it look so fancy and easy, and I'm going, holy mackerel.
And I'm just like, you know, that here, I'll stop knitting and show it again. But it's like, oh yeah, the intarsia bit, it's so great. And then you just have the entire back of the sweater. It's just knits. It's just purls. It's just getting it around to the other side.
When you said you were going to use those colors, when you said you were going to do gray and blue stripes, I was kind of like, because, you know, that could go really wonky if it's not done right, but I love how you did it.
Yeah.
Like,
and
great.
And to show the back again, like, I liked the idea because, like I said, it's a Harry Potter reference. The undesirable number 1, it's what they put when they were hunting for Harry Potter in the last book, in the Deathly Hallows. And that also in the Harry Potter world, you know, the Azkaban prison uniform was black on dark gray. So I liked the idea of incorporating that in the sweater, but I didn't want to be like I didn't want to be obvious prison stripes. I mean, I wanted that element, but I didn't want that to be the only thing going on, you know? So
generally you don't want to make yourself a prison uniform when you're knitting. I mean,
yeah,
you can, but
yeah, I wanted to put that to mind without that being, so adding in the navy. So it's more like it's slightly nautical stripes, not just like, woohoo, I'm going to jail. This, going to wizard prison.
It's also why you didn't decide to use orange either, because, you know, it'd be a little bit too literal interpretation.
Yeah. I did think about it for half a second because I have some nice burnt orange I could have used, but no. And then also, and this is just ridiculous, but I have this this orange colored yarn, or not this orange, is kind of a gold colored yarn that I was just using to hold my sleeve stitches. But I'm looking at that over the rest of it. I'm like, I really might have to do another one with like gold letters only in these colors. You know, some good phrase, you know, police streets, not tweets, but it's on a sweater. I had this idea, and I loved the idea, but then I found out that nobody understood the reference and just thought it was weird. So if anybody else understand, can we get it? If anyone else understands the reference of Sweet Lady Freedom, let's make out, tell me in the comments, because I don't think anyone knows what I mean, what I'm referring to when I say that. But
yeah, no, I have no idea.
Exactly. So I thought it would be great. You could have the Statue of Liberty and you could have those words surrounding it and you could put that on a sweater. Like, no, literally the messaging is confused. Nobody knows exactly what you're talking about if you say that. See, it's confusing. And that's why I keep a lot of my ideas to myself. Like,
At least you know how to edit. There are some designers that any thought they think of goes onto a design and you're looking at it like I know that we're not getting into knitting and we're doing politics, but what's with all the crop tops lately? I understand the cropped length sweater, like I get that one, but what's up with the actual crop top sweater? Like how many people are like, man, my arms are cold, but my belly's always hot, and so let's make it a sweater. Like it seems to defeat the whole purpose of a crop top, which
I know.
I don't think people wear those, but
I mean, if you're a teenage girl in the 90s, and maybe it's coming back around, but I saw it was like a cropped sweatshirt, and I'm like, I need a hoodie, but also I mean, if I was wearing like a high-waisted skirt or like a high-waisted dress, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's the right height for this, slightly shorter hoodie. But it's like,
yeah, well, I was a teen in the 90s, as we've discussed on occasion. I never wore crop tops. So they're not for everybody.
There you go.
And I just don't get it though. There's so many of them. And I like scrolling through patterns. We all know I don't make sweaters, but that doesn't mean I don't like to look at them. And yeah, no. If it's a crop top, I just don't get it. But anyway.
I know. Luckily, you can buy more yarn.
Yeah. So is yours going to be a crop top? Like, are you going to finish it underneath the undesirable, or is it going to have more inches?
Well, if I stopped it right now, it would be a crop top, but no, there's going to be more. And also, sorry, another question I meant to ask the crowd, because, and again, I always stop and knit and then want to show it off again, because, okay, so it's a big V-neck. So my idea was that I was going to take the navy blue color and go ahead and make that be the ribbing around the neck. But I was wondering if I shouldn't try to incorporate some of the light gray too. The only light gray will be in the center bit. I think that's okay.
I think it's fine because it's a design element. No light gray around the neck.
Okay.
That's my vote. We can see what others say.
I will take your word as gospel.
Well, no. See what our friends say. We have them. We have a few.
We have a few friends.
They have opinions once in a while.
Exactly. They have opinions. They
have opinions all the time. What am I kidding about?
Exactly. We're an opinionated group. Give me your sweater opinions.
Oh, and one more thing before we head on into the crazy ass news that's been going on. Our friend Amanda still has openings for her quilts. And so you can get your message in to Amanda by May 1st. If you don't do Instagram, you have no idea how to get in touch with her, you can post it in the comments on this video. I'll make sure she gets them. You can email us at politicallyincorrectknitters or at deplorableknitter. They're listed. Our email addresses are listed in the description.
Politically Incorrect Knitters is Gmail and Deplorable Knitter is Yahoo.
Yes.
There you go.
But they're also listed so that you guys can double check. Because we're happy to send them along. That's not an issue. So little message, name, state, so that she can, tell the president who said it, But yeah, get those in. If you were thinking about doing it, you still have another week and a half or so. So
May's coming up awful fast.
I know. So, Anne, what did you think this week about one of our illustrious leaders crossing state lines to incite a crowd? It sounds, I can't even believe that I just said that sentence, but what do you think about this?
Right. One of the senior members of Congress, and how benevolent of her to come down, condescending, but in the best sense, to go into the crowd with her mask and visor, but not really much distancing, and tell them that they need to get out there and, burn a Wendy's for justice. You know, that there need to be, that they need, no, don't be calm and, you know, just hold a sign and solidarity. No. You just break stuff.
No, I just can't believe that she has said all the things that she said and that nobody finds an issue with it. She told people,
okay, on police reform legislation, Waters said it's not going to be that easy passed out of this bill in the United States Senate, which is a weird phrasing, but continuing. That is why I say to the young people, you've got to keep your activism up. It's not going to go away because elected officials sit and think, well, let me see, this is wrong. I've got to take care of this. Oftentimes, we're too safe in what we do. We don't want to make any waves. Oh, Maxine, as if you thought that. That's why it's so important to have activism. That's why the civil rights movement was all. That's what the civil rights movement was all about. It was about activism. It was about confrontation. Now, the civil rights movement, as I recall, is Martin Luther King Jr. advocating peaceful protests above all. Confrontation isn't really his bag. So
I just, you know, I know she said that we need to be activists, we need to be loud, but in a situation like the Chauvin trial, where the jurors aren't sequestered and where there's so much violence and tension around it, it just seems to me like that's fanning the flames. Mm-hmm. If I was on that jury and I knew that freaking people in government were out there saying this has to be done, I might not think that he needs to be done, but like, do I want them to burn my house down or come after me or my children?
Right. When the entire city of Minneapolis is boarded up, when one of the people who medically testified at the George Floyd trial, there was animal blood and a pig's head left on his front porch. Okay. When a friend of mine, his father works in Minneapolis, and they said, go home early. Just leave the office in town. You know, it's not going to be pretty. And this is no matter how the trial comes out. And because it doesn't become justice to appease the mob, just to conduct yourself in such a way that will make a mob happy, a mob that will burn stuff down anyways. There's no justice in that. There's no looking at evidence. Justice is not, well, I say you're guilty, so you're wrong. Justice is weighing out both sides, looking at the evidence, and not giving into violence. That's why justice is blind. And what's going on in Minneapolis is just insane.
It is insane. But I just don't understand how they can allow, if we had a Republican that went and said, I don't even know, because we're just not that crazy, which is the big difference.
Right.
But
if AOC can accuse
yes.
Ted Cruz of wanting to kill her, which he never said ever.
Right. But, you know, AOC is a good one. She's really outspoken. So if I went and said, you know, if AOC does something you don't like, you get up in their face. You know, you see an AOC supporter out in a restaurant, you get in their face. You don't. That's what Maxine Waters said about Trump supporters. So, like, I just don't understand. And it's like, if we did it, it would be, oh, my God, you're coming after a Hispanic woman. You're coming after a minority. You're threatening this woman. But
right. And it'd be like,
it doesn't matter if they do it. Like, I don't know.
Exactly. And be like, and even, you know, if I saw someone who, you know, I would agree with generally politically getting into the face of an AOC supporter, I'd be like, buddy, get out of here. Like, don't be rude. Don't have a debate if you want to have a debate, but like, the entire mentalities of the parties are so different.
No, but I was telling you before we started that Candace Owens, I know she has a show, and I'm not sure where it is, but I really need to find it because I think I need to start listening to her more. But she's talking about how, they make it about race, but it's not about race. And they are going to continue to do all of this stuff and make all of these accusations and as long as we allow the violence and everything, they will just continue to do it because it's working for them. And so we need to start getting up in their face and just saying, we're not going to do it anymore. And I think that that's the problem. It's like you said, it's the difference in the parties. It's the,
right.
I would never get in somebody's face and threaten them because I don't believe that that's how you solve anything. But if that's what they're doing, we need to find a way to combat it. I'm not saying that we should start threatening people, but we have to start, maybe we need to start petitions against Maxine Waters. Maybe we need to start getting out on platforms and saying, this is wrong. This is wrong for a senior congresswoman, the chairman of the financial board, to start to say these things and to promote this violence. And why is it okay? Why? It's just so frustrating to me. And so one of the things I was listening to was talking about the Chauvin trial specifically. And I'm sure a lot of you have heard that the judge had said that on appeal, the case may be overturned because of her comments. And the lawyer who was talking about it was saying, I believe that this is a case of police brutality, that excessive force was used in this thing and that they got to the right decision. But she said, I don't think the way they went about getting to the decision was the right way. And I think that's a good way to put it. Like,
I think in the George Floyd case, with Officer Chauvin, there was a lot of evidence in that trial that was, cause of death being far more related to the amount of drugs that he took. And he said while he was there, I took too many drugs. And when, again, they got him, they were going to put him into the car, he said, don't put me on the car, let me lie on the ground, and kicked an officer at the time. So then they're on the ground. Could the argument be made that George Floyd would be alive if they had kept him if they had said, no, you're not on the ground, we're keeping you in the car, and then shut the door, drive off? There's a lot of little places in the situation where this could have gone wrong that you can argue for. Convicting Derek Chauvin for a second-degree murder charge, which is murder in act of a felony, that's...
And what the lawyer that I'm referencing was talking about was saying is that it's more of the manslaughter portion of it, that she thinks that that's a more accurate thing for him. And
right, if you want to say manslaughter, like, okay, then evidence, look it out. Sure, you can convict him on manslaughter if you feel that is right, but just throwing the book at this guy, worse, throwing the book at this guy and saying, well, this is only the beginning of justice. No, it isn't. This is, a kangaroo court, with no offense to the Australians.
But Pelosi said after the conviction, oh, well, now George Floyd's name is synonymous with justice. How does the woman that he held at gunpoint, who was pregnant, feel about that? Like, maybe Chauvin acted incorrectly in the situation. Right. But making a statement like, oh, now his name is Justice, kind of undermines the fact that he was also a dick.
Right.
So I don't.
And also, what about the people say, oh, well, it was all over a counterfeit 20. It was over a counterfeit 20 that the guy at the cup noodles thing, he came out and he said, hey, either hand me the cigarettes back or hand me a real 20 for the cigarettes. Asked it repeatedly. The guy said no. George Floyd said no, shoved him out of the way as he was in the car with his drug dealer. And again, it doesn't mean that he deserved to die or that he should have died, but the amount, and then taking multiple drugs while the cops were coming. There's a lot of bad in this situation. Ripping up, and then the store policy at cup noodles is that if you get a $20 bill, that's on you. So it's, you're bullying the kid out of money. And that's not, oh, what a saint is he, the guy who, would basically steal money from a kid, that or a 19-year-old clerk. That's not a lovely and kind thing to do. He's, again, not that anything horrible should have happened, but should he have gone to jail? Well, I think so.
Commission of a crime, right? Like if you can, and there's so many feelings I've had lately that I don't know that I can be. But Candace Owens has said before that her community, the Black community, has a tendency to take the lowest common denominator and raise them up. And that's what they're doing. Do you know last week that a 7-year-old girl was shot while she was in the drive-thru with her father at McDonald's, shot and killed? That's the person that you should be raising up and calling justice for.
Right.
I have a 7-year-old. If my 7-year-old was in the car with my husband and they got shot, that would be the most horrifying thing that could happen. Nobody says a freaking word about it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's part of what makes me so angry. It's not that I don't think that there are issues. I think that there are issues. There's issues in our country. We could fix a lot of them with, getting away from liberal policy. But the problem is that these Black Lives Matters, they don't care about Black lives. We all know that. Mm-hmm. They don't lift up the people that need lifting up. They lift up the criminals and they encourage criminal behavior, and it's not okay. And we need to start saying that it's not okay. That family who lost their 7-year-old, who was probably going to get a freaking Happy Meal, needs to get justice.
Right.
Not this guy that was beating people up and passing fake 20s and taking drugs. And I don't know what the solution is, but we need people who are strong and who stand for good to start talking about these other things. Like, nobody talks about the fact that the freaking police have killed like twice as many unarmed white people as they have Black people, but we're not rioting.
Right. And also too, during the Chauvin trial, that people are talking about, oh, well, the Ma'Khia Bryant story. And they're like, another teenage girl is shot by the cops. And
they were reporting that she was unarmed and that she was so fabulous. And no. Have you seen the still? I'll put the still in of her coming at the chick with a knife.
Exactly. And Crowder mentioned, first of all, that the mob came in and bullied for the body cam footage, which is a bad precedent. But even when they instantly release the body cam footage, and the body cam footage was that there was some sort of some confrontation happening, they're like, okay, what's happening? And she comes barreling in with a knife, has one arm, the girl is pinned to the car, the other hand with a knife raised. And if the cop hadn't been there, if it hadn't been, he shot her mid-swing. Okay, and also like, oh, 16-year-old girl. If he had not shot her, there would have been no story. It would have been Black girl stabbed in the streets and, taken into custody.
And because it was Black on Black crime, it wouldn't have even been an issue.
And I wrote Right. And also, let me read you a headline from the Gateway Pundit. And again, this is case in point. Gateway Pundit, Ohio horror. 13-year-old Black girl stabs to death a 13-year-old Black girl the night before Ma'Khia Bryant killed by police while trying to also stab teen girl. Okay, if there's a 13-year-old girl stabs another 13-year-old girl, nobody hears about it. A cop, unfortunately, has to shoot a 16-year-old girl because she is about to stab another girl. And then, her mother comes out and says what a kind and loving and motherly person she was. How motherly is trying to stab someone? And, And
never tried to stand my kids, so
I know that is. What is your household if that's like the height of motherly conduct right there? And there was the NAACP put out a statement saying, what immediate danger were they in? And I'm like, the woman getting stabbed, that's immediate danger.
She probably felt like she was pleased that the cops were there.
Exactly. There's a little bit of body cam footage afterwards where, the cops talking to her, and she's going into the cop car, and she isn't like, oh wow, I'm so scared. It's like, whoa, thanks.
Right.
Like she's not like, oh, get away from me, Mr. Copper, I'm afraid you're going to shoot me too. No,
there's none of that. But what about the fabulous tweet from LeBron James?
Oh gosh.
Who said, I think he said something like, they're coming for you next, and he posted or you're next, and he posted a picture of the cop. So this is the behavior that we are accepting of. Trump got taken off of Twitter for a lot less than freaking threatening someone. But does anything happen to LeBron James? No, because he's King LeBron, apparently, in his own brain.
Apparently.
Well, the media's too. They apparently think that he's worthy of, spreading his hate and vitriol to the rest of the nation. But President Trump is too controversial.
I know. But
I'm
really,
so angry.
Cop saves woman's life. So therefore the cop has to die. There's no winning.
Right. There isn't. And it's
and also some good shooting texts the one with the 16-year-old girl with the knife was very close to the other girl, and mid-swing he shot her. Okay, well, he saved the other girl's life, but also, that it was a good enough shot that only the one person was harmed. I think was, A+ on his training.
Yeah. People are like, oh, why didn't you shoot her in the hand? Well, when your hand is doing this towards someone.
Right. When your hand is above and swinging down towards the other girl, if you shot her in the hand, you would have shot the other girl too.
You would have shot the other girl. It would have been bad.
Right.
But it just, the breakdown. Okay. You can't tell me that this is not because of the breakdown of the family. If you had strong role models, if you had strong parents, if you had a father in the house where...
I'm sorry, Makia's father was actually on scene during that confrontation, kicking another girl in the head.
Oh, I saw that part of the video. I didn't realize it was him.
It was. It's like...
Oh, isn't that nice? The family that, beats people up together, gets shot together?
Yeah, it's like...
It doesn't roll quite the same as,
Exactly. Like, this is a problem. Every part of this is a problem. Like, why... it's like, oh, well, you have to solve problems in the community. Yes. Why is this happening in the community? Let's ask, why is this happening in any community? And also, frankly, if the police were called, I don't think they would hesitate in a second. If I had a knife and was going to, if you and I had some sort of a tussle and I had a knife, police would not hesitate. Would not hesitate at all, and nor should they. And I don't think race would have mattered.
Well, they make race into a big thing.
Right.
Monte Wright's another one.
Uh-huh.
He broke away from the cops and was getting back into his car. Everybody's like, oh, he was on a warrant for weed possession. No, actually, he was on a warrant for an assault with a deadly weapon possession. So if you know that about him and he's getting back in his car, what are your thoughts? Exactly. My thoughts are probably like, oh, he's got a gun in there. I'm screwed.
Exactly. And it's also like seeing the false narrative pop up so immediately. And again, with Makia Bryant, I saw someone say, another Black teenage girl is shot by police brutality. It's like, and the knife was a peaceful knife. What?
Well, I love those peaceful knives. I wish I had more of them.
And also, big old shoe-in right here too, that in a knife fight, what is going to stop a knife fight? A man with a gun or someone with a gun. A police officer who is out to serve and protect the citizens, or someone, again, with someone who all Americans have the right to defend themselves, and who is that someone who is exercising their Second Amendment rights to defend others. Okay, there are so many murders that are stopped in this country by someone defending themselves. And not to hop over to England briefly and but that is one of the issues, that there's so much knife crime in London. And as much as I like Mr. Lawrence Fox for mayor, his solution to this problem is, if you're caught with a knife in your pocket, it's 5 years jail or community service. Well, if I'm, tripping down High Street in foggy London town and someone gets all West Side Story on me, and I'm going to be like, ooh, bud, sorry, community service 5 years. What were you thinking? Ha ha ha. That's not going to work out. That if you need the fundamental right to defend yourself, and not having that right to defend yourself cut away by any government. And then we're saying, oh, well, gun control, oh, well, knife crime, oh, well, we have, and once everything down to a sharp stick is taken, and if people want to kill people, they will kill people, no matter with what.
People will do bad, right, if they want to. That's the problem. It's this legislating morality. No, you need to allow people to have the opportunity to protect themselves.
Right.
You cannot say you can't have guns, because you know what? Bad guys don't give a crap. They could give two shits if you say you can't have a gun, because if they need one to whatever illegal activity that they're involved in, they're doing, robbery, drugs, whatever, they don't give a crap.
Right. And also,
we're the ones that are hurt.
Exactly. And firearms have also been called the great equalizer. Gun rights are human rights. Gun rights are women's rights. Gun rights are gay rights. Gun rights are minority rights. Especially since in recent years, when you think of the armed robber sneaking into your house at night, that in recent years, the number has gone up, that it's not just one guy, it's normally 2 or 3 or 4. And people are like, oh, why do you need more than 10 rounds? I don't know. Maybe there's a lot of people and they're coming into my house and I fear for my life. Even a self-defense situation like that. Well, maybe, if you're, in creepy back alley X, and, if I, as a woman, and a man comes at me and neither of us have any weapons, I'm losing. Okay.
Right.
If, let's say it's a good day for me and, for whatever reason, chance smiles and I can take him. 2 men? Absolutely not. Because there is a strength differential. Okay. And that is with a lot of people. And, if you're a mother with children and some guy tries to kidnap one of your kids, that how are you going to protect against that? And if you do, it is a fundamental right to be able to defend yourself, your family, and your property, and right, to not be allowed that right because, oh, well, if you just want a gun, you just want it because you're a horrible person and you want to kill people. Well, maybe I want to protect myself and my family from being killed, because right, I understand that not all people are good people and there are criminals in this world, and maybe I want to be protected from them. And I don't want to be another sad statistic.
Yep. And I was listening to Graham Allen this morning, he was on a Newsmax show, I believe, but he was talking about why the Second Amendment is so important. And it's because it is the amendment that allows us to enforce all of the others. Mm-hmm. Once the Second Amendment is taken away, there is no way to ensure that we have anything else.
Right.
They take away the second, we're done. I mean, they can do whatever they want to. We have no way to.
It keeps the power, again, in the people's hands and not the government's hands. It is the people who elect the government, and to a certain extent, the people get the government they deserve. But also, to a certain extent, people in government, that whole power corrupts thing, that perhaps the guy you thought was good wasn't so great after all, that it keeps it in check. You can't have such a strong power differential between the two.
I mean, I don't know what we're going to do about this government. Our freaking president was saying, while the jury was deliberating, I heard it. I heard the clip of it. Is it alleged?
No. I said he's the alleged president.
Oh, I thought you meant that. I thought you were.
No.
Okay.
No, this wasn't an instant fact check. This is a.
No, when you said alleged, I assumed that you were emulating Circle Back Jen, who, even though he's on tape saying that he prays that the dude gets a guilty verdict, she said, well, no, the president didn't. My lying eyes, my lying ears.
Oh, you don't know what you're talking about.
Listen to Circle Back Jen.
Exactly, the only woman who is paler than I am. She scares me a bit.
That's saying something, man. Although you are looking a little bit brighter today, so that's nice.
Yeah, spring is in the air. So
you're not translucent anymore.
I know. I'm working on it.
Now, in case anybody hasn't picked up on it, I am so pissed off about what is going on. I feel like I'm a little bit crazy. Like, not bad crazy, just I don't understand how people can watch what is happening. Be like, oh yeah, it's the cops' fault. Oh yeah, the girl had a knife and people are like, oh, she didn't do anything. Like, when are we going to get to the point where we can look at what's happening?
Was it Kathy Griffith who said something like, oh, well, hasn't everyone had teenage knife fights in their neighborhoods? And I'm just like, it's like the cops never had to get involved before. Again, I've seen West Side Story. Those cops were involved in those friendly teenage knife fights. Like, what? Yeah.
Well, the cool thing about Kathy Griffith is that apparently she lived in a really nice suburb in Illinois, and there were probably no knife fights at her school either. She's just full of shit.
Fair.
But the other thing I wanted to touch on, I know we probably should get going because we've been on this for a bit, but so I follow a lot of people that I don't agree with on Instagram because I find it interesting to make sure but to just be up on what everybody's saying.
Right.
And they're still singing the song that we should embrace riots because, that's just possessions and these are people's lives. And so who cares if we're destroying possessions? Dude, if it's not yours, don't take it. That's what I've taught my kids. They come to me, oh, so-and-so took my toy. Well, give it back. It's not yours. Like, I don't care. It's not a discussion. Like, I think part of it goes back to there's just no standards. There's no family values. It's being tolerated and accepted. And so therefore, we're just doing whatever the hell we want to.
Right. And
ridiculous.
Also, part of the possessions thing is that the idea of possessions to a certain extent are an extension of you. If you don't take care of your stuff, you generally don't take care of yourself. If somebody breaks my stuff, I'm going to assume they don't have a lot of regard for me. Okay. That there's you don't replace it. You say it doesn't matter. Then it comes into what you think of me is an extension of how you respect my stuff. Okay. A cop over here does something, bad or wrong or something I don't like. So I'm going to go burn down the Walgreens. How was the Walgreens in any way involved? Oh, well, I have to have my voice heard about the cop.
It doesn't.
Put out a flyer, buddy.
They're in communities where the people they are hurting are similar to themselves.
Right.
They're not going into the cops' neighborhood and tearing stuff down. They're in their own communities also.
Right. And if they were in the cops' neighborhood, again, what about the guy next door to the cop? What's he have to do anything with anything?
But my point is that it just doesn't even make sense because it's not like they're even. And then the other thing that I've been hearing a ton of is that they shouldn't have to just, that cops use force on Black people way more than they use force on white people, and that the people who are getting pulled over or detained or whatever it is shouldn't just comply. And I have 2 kids, right? 5 and almost 8. And we've had conversations in the car of like, we'll drive by a person that's pulled over and, well, why are they pulled over? Well, they were probably speeding or doing something incorrect. And, they were like, well, what do you do, Mom, if that happens? I say, well, you do what the police person asks. If they, you talk to them, you find out why you got pulled over, you give them any information they need. You never run away from them. You never try to hit them. I got pulled over once, ready? I was 8 months pregnant. My mom lived in the city. We live about half hour out of the city near us. And apparently on the interstate I was taking, they've had a lot of drug people coming from the city down into the southern tier. And so they pulled me over because of my tint. That was the only reason they pulled me over, because there's a history of drugs coming down that road, and I had dark tint on my windows. And the cop came over fairly aggressively because he assumed I was someone else. I mean, he gets to the car, I'm this big, got like baby stuff on the passenger seat. He's like, where were you? I was like, I was buying some stuff for my baby I'm getting, He's like, but I was never like, why are you pulling me over? Can't you see I'm not, why would I do that? I'm going to talk to the guy. Yeah, officer, I know that my tint's dark. It's the way I bought the car. I should have it removed. I did end up getting it removed because it was against New York State law, come to find out. So it's too dark. But I never like flipped out on the cop or anything. I mean, seriously, the minute he shined his flashlight in my car, he was like, well, you're probably not selling drugs. But you never know. That could have been a really good ruse, actually.
Exactly. It could have been your
I could have had them all in my belly. That would have been like...
The drugs could have been in the kids' choice, like in the first Batman movie.
But my point is that things will happen. No, I've never gotten into a confrontation from a cop, but I've also been really nice and respectful when I've come across them. So...
Right. Really,
is it messaging?
Yeah, and there's so many people who are now terrified of cops, and if I have an air freshener, I'm just going to get pulled over and shot. That is not what happened at all.
But that is not what happened at all. But air fresheners are not legal in New York State, so I don't have one hanging off of my mirror because I know my state law.
Right.
I mean, not that I'm saying that that's a valid reason to shoot somebody, but my point is that if my tint wasn't correct, they pulled me over for it. If I have an air freshener hanging and it's against the law, they can legitimately pull me over for it. That's the reason I don't have one hanging off my car.
Right.
I prefer not to get pulled over. I get scared.
Right.
I go past a cop and I'm going like 2 miles faster than I should. And I'm like, oh no. Like, that feeling inside? Like, nobody wants to get pulled over, but that doesn't mean you like lose your mind.
Right. And just because you don't want to get pulled over, you also don't assume that it's going to end in your death. It's like, oh, well, that's your privilege talking. There are many police interactions that do not result in people's deaths.
Yes. And I think that part of the problem is messaging.
Right.
Looting and rioting are not valid responses to somebody being shot. I am sorry, but it's not. And resisting the cop when they pull you over is not a valid response to being pulled over.
Right.
Because if you don't want to die, then you don't run away.
Right. And I should also throw in that there has been no case that has been found of, oh, officer, I'm being very nice. Yes, I'll comply. Yes, I'll get out of the car. Totally unarmed. My hands are up. I'm complying. I'm doing whatever you want. And they just shoot him.
Right.
None. Not whatsoever. And you're like, oh, well, nobody. Like, oh, sorry. I was just trying to get to my work. Nothing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've gotten pulled over on my way to work because I used to always be late to work. always, which meant that I was going a good, 15 miles faster than I should have the whole trip.
Right.
I am reformed now. I have my kids with me almost every time I'm driving. So therefore, I don't do that stuff. But
right.
in my youth, in my stupid youth, the main issue right now is that people is the messaging. So there's people who are calm and level-headed saying, comply with police, let the justice system work. And then we have another group that's like, burn it all down, and we can't seem to coexist anymore. The divide has gotten too big. And I know that that's the plan. I know that that's what they want, because they want to tear it all down. Black Lives Matter wants to tear this down. They want a welfare state. They want collectivization of everything. And so therefore, it shouldn't matter if you burn down somebody else's property, because it doesn't matter. You shouldn't have your own property. But I don't think that
except for the owner of Black Lives Matter, of course.
Well, because you need 4 houses.
Exactly.
You need 4 houses.
Multi-million-dollar houses. I love the Babylon Bee thing with, justice won't really be served until I get at least a 5th house.
Exactly. But we're coming to this point in our country where the values are so different that I don't know how we reconcile this. Mm-hmm. I don't have a solution, and it's making me angry. Like, what are we going to do? We have mealy-mouthed rhinos that aren't doing crap to help us. And they're too scared of their position and losing their power and blah, blah, that I don't know what to do.
Well, I have solutions. There's simple solutions, but that's the thing, though. A simple solution is sometimes the hardest to implement. So, solution 1. First off, you have to realize that you're not crazy and you're not the only one. Unless you really are crazy, judge for yourself. But that number 1, you're not crazy and you're also not that original. So there's a lot of other people out there like you who are also not crazy. So.
Right. I mean, some of us are slightly on the edge of crazy, but
yeah,
I haven't fallen over yet, so I'm doing all right.
Like I said, judge for yourself. Take a hard look. Are you really crazy? But otherwise, no. There are people. Okay. No, that's something that Rush used to always say, that the knowledge that he is not the lone voice of conservatism. There are people throughout the country who listened and they clicked with them, and that they have conservative values like him, and they see this and they think it's nuts. Okay, so it's not just you. Think of that already, that's your baseline. The biblical with Elijah, that, oh no, I'm the only one. No, there's 7,000 people you don't even know about that haven't bent the knee to Baal. So there are people out there like you. Also, additionally, that talk to other people, because there are many people out there who perhaps would agree, that either do agree with you or would agree with you if they were given the facts. If all you hear is 16-year-old black girl shot by cops when she called the cops, which it turned out this morning that it's unclear if it was her. It doesn't sound like it was her on the phone. So if that's all you hear and you think it's a terrible injustice, then you have to say, hey, but here's the evidence. Not entirely cold, like you're not unsympathetic to somebody being shot, but also, hey, she was trying to stab another girl.
Mm-hmm. Watch the video. It's kind of upsetting.
Exactly. And that is something, I wrote this down. I was watching a video, Freedom Works did an interview with Nigel Farage, and they were asking, what to do now that a lot of people think it's hopeless. And he said, started out with Brexit. Nobody agreed with him, not even on the conservative side. He was nuts. What is he talking about? And he said that a logical, consistent, reasonable message will attract people. If you are out there, you are saying the same thing, you are saying it consistently, you are arguing it out reasonably, that you will gain people. And you can't just give up on it and be like, oh, well, we're dead anyways. Oh, well, we're dead anyways, then be dead anyways. But otherwise, put your boots on and get out there. That you need to talk to people, you need to win people around you, and you need to get it out. And don't just, also when looking, because there's a lot of this out there where you will glob on to anyone out there that agrees with you slightly. Do vet people, because I mean, some people are, and buy my book at buymybooknow.com, that they're even though they're conservative, they're lots of money involved. And then there's also people who are, all that they agree with conservative policies, and then you look more into them and you're like, oh, actually you're into some kooky stuff. So make sure, vet them reasonably. And also there's a line between people who you vet reasonably but also don't throw away people who disagree with you to a certain extent either. That you have to make sure that the foundation is good, and then you can have whatever small disagreements. But be open, talk to people, and as we've said before, that make your voice heard, write an angry letter. If you don't like a company doing something, tell them. There was a page I saw this week. It was a Louisiana homeschool group, and they were talking about different regulations changing, and that they should, people from this group should write their representatives. And they had a large group, but surprisingly few people write their representatives. Do write your representatives, even though you think, oh, well, this doesn't matter. I guess 3 in the point was, if you look at what the liberal side and what people we disagree with focus on, also pay attention to those things like education, things like public policy, things like every, minor elections, city commissioner, all these things. Do pay attention. And again, you're not nuts. There are people out there like you, or they would be like you if you talk to them about it. So
right. Well, it's funny you say that, because actually I was telling you earlier that we're having dinner tonight with one of our neighbors. My husband helped her cut down a tree, and she wanted to buy us pizza. But I never talk politics with my neighbors, because I like we have a really close neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And so I'm kind of the mindset of, I don't want to bring up politics because I don't want to mess up the vibe here. Right. Because we all get along, we help each other, and I don't want it to be something stupid that we don't help each other anymore. But she made a vague reference to our governor, which caused me to clue me in, saying, hey, I think that she agrees. And so I kind of, you don't have to be, running in with your Trump flag flying, and you can kind of just be like, hey, what do you think about Cuomo, or whatever the pertinent situation is in your world? And you can find out a lot by that without really outing yourself. Right. You know what I mean? And so if that's something that's nervous to you, that you don't really want to do, there's ways to do it without being like, hey, did you see my Trump shirt? Right. You can, but yeah, so now this neighbor, she and I are closer than ever, because we found out that we agree on everything. Right. And so, it's hard to cross that line, especially with people that you have to kind of be around and live with. I don't really like to go there, but sometimes you do. And yeah. And I'm so glad that you're the voice of reason, because I know that I am off my rocker today. I won't even lie. I'm a little bit over the edge of crazy. I'll come back around, but
exactly.
It's just upsetting.
It is upsetting. It is woke corporations and censorship and the rest of it. But this is terrible. But it's like, look at how things have sucked in England for years, and they still got Brexit through. So
yeah, no, but that's true. That's
and also with different things in the voter rolls, it's like, okay, well, how did the things that we believe are problems start in the voter rolls? Well, people showed up and they started doing them. How are we going to fix things for an equal and fair system for voting? Well, we have to show up and we have to care. And that's part of the issue that we've had for years in the Republican Party, that, Democrats, they've been in power, and Republicans, they've been in office, and they haven't done much. Well, the side that cares more wins, and they have won. Well, let's get out there and care.
And that's the thing about like Black Lives Matters and stuff. Their messaging, they are on point. They are shoving it down your face every time you see them. It's this message, it's this message, it's this message. The problem is that Republicans tend to have a more wide message. We tend to have more nuanced points, and we kind of need to get on the Second Amendment is important. Whatever your cause is, we need to get on it, and we need to, every time I talk to someone, that should be like hey, what do you think about the Second Amendment? Hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about?
Not every time. I can imagine the checkout girl at the store is like, please stop now. You see me every week. No, but if you sat there and you chatted with her casually and built up a relationship and eventually said something, then,
But my point is that you talk to somebody who's on the Black Lives Matter side, on the liberal side, they have their points, and this is their point, and they're going to tell you every time. Mm-hmm. They have their talking points. My dad has always said about the left is that they have talking points I could teach to my kids. Mm-hmm. Black Lives Matters, gay rights, like whatever their causes, you can list it off in like 3 words. I could get my kids to parrot those.
Right.
We need to take our stuff and boil it down to, gun rights matter. And
gun rights are human rights.
Gun rights are human rights. That's gonna be my next hat. Thanks, Dan.
Exactly. Well, like I said, so even though I just knocked, Team London, I saw it was a video today how, Lawrence Fox, the Reclaim Party, and Richard Tice of Reform, which was before that, it was Brexit. They got together and they're doing a little coalition thing for the upcoming May 6th elections. So, Nigel Farage endorses Lawrence Fox, and there's a big to-do in the papers. But they did their little speech, and there was several phrases. It was police streets, not tweets, and lads need dads. And I'm like, that's a good one. I haven't heard that one.
But that's exactly what I'm talking about. We need to take our policies, and instead of talking about nuanced whatever, we need to be like, no.
I would say that we do need to talk about nuanced whatever. We need the proper argument. We need the thorough logic and facts, but we
I'm not saying we don't need that.
Yes,
we need the catchphrase.
Right. Right. That you need the sum up paragraph that you can repeat and you can have quick, and people can ask you to explain it, but you need the concise message. You
need the hook, like on a song, the hook that gets you singing it. That's what we need. They have Black Lives Matters. They have, defund the police. They have, so we need our back the blue. We need our, whatever our phrases are, we need them.
Unless the blue comes down on your butt for not wearing a mask, then you on thin ice, buddy.
Yeah, that's another story for another day. But
exactly. Not that I wish any harm to come to any officer or anything like that. Naturally, I just want them to go ahead and do their job and protecting and serving and all wonderful things that they ought to do in a reasonable and straightforward way. But
I don't know, man.
It's crazy. But again, I said this before with voting, but we are knitters. You think a couple stitches doesn't matter, but after a while, you have an entire garment. You have to start somewhere.
Or in my case, a hat, because we know I don't make garments. But yeah.
Well,
you start off with almost nothing, and then it turns into something.
Exactly. And it takes a while, but it can be done. It's like, oh, well, that will take too long. Well, when you start, and even if it gets put to the side for a while and you do something else, just keep going. It will be finished eventually.
Yes, exactly. So, Anne, thanks for your uplift today. I needed it. I'm sure our viewers after this nonsense of a week probably appreciate it also. Guys, don't forget to follow us on Instagram if you're there. they've been messing with my numbers again. I don't know about you, Anne, if they do that to you or not, but follow us. We're on Rumble. We're on, I don't even know, MeWe,
Exactly.
Gab.
We're on.
Am I on Gab?
I think you're on Gab. I was on Gab. This is a side. I don't like the guy who owns Gab. I have issues. Not that he's necessarily wrong, but he clearly thinks he's team leader for the new tomorrow. And I'm just like, shut your mouth. Whatever. Disagree with me about Gab in the comments. We are here. We are on YouTube, Rumble, Gab, MeWe, Parler. If Parler exists.
Still a thing?
Parler's still a thing. I haven't been on Parler. So if you're friend requesting me on Parler and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I haven't been in a while because the app is weird on my phone now. Anyways, we are in all of these places, Patterns, on Galilee Life, on Etsy. I have some on Lovecrafts. That is Deplorable Knitter and Pinkava. That is how you will find us. I think that's everything. And
I think that's about all.
Yeah.
And remember to like, comment, and subscribe because that helps new people find us too. If you guys are engaging with us, it helps other people who think like us to find us. So it's important.
Exactly.
Important stuff.
Share with your friends.
And hopefully next week, the news will be better. I don't know, but hopefully. And we'll see you guys
working
soon.
towards better news.
Yes. Thank you guys. We'll see you next week.
All right. See you guys.
All right.